Part 35. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 341. Chapter 341 Alchemy and Planting. Looking at her depressed expression again, I was very confused. Was this a success or a failure? If it was a success, he had never seen a dark baby elixir before. If it was a failure, the elixir would still be round and fluorescent, and it wouldn't be the black and scorched shape of the elixir that failed to be refined. Otherwise, why would he think that she was refining poison pills? Luoluo, what's going on? Zhizhong asked. Yanxiangluo sighed and said in a resentful tone, "It's gone." Zhizhong's mouth twitched after hearing her words, and he was confused. Would something like this happen again when making alchemy? Can elixirs be planted together? The key is who has heard of the elixir. What's the matter? Zhizhong coughed slightly to cover up his urge to laugh. Isn't she a girl who knows how to be shy? The Shenyang Dan was strung together into the Poyang Dan, Yanxiangluo said in a bad mood. You still carry something like this? Zhizhong's mouth twitched even more fiercely. Luoluo is so awesome. He no longer knows what words to use to describe the situation at this time, but his Luoluo is indeed amazing. He can actually mix seeds when refining elixirs, and no one can do it so well. Yanxiangluo rolled her eyes at him and put down the stone nest without saying a word. Finally she had some clues today, but she ended up like this. It seemed that it was indeed difficult to refine the god-level elixir, and she was not in a good mood. Zhizhong sat down next to her. How did Luoluo do it? I just had some ideas and wanted to give it a try, but something went wrong while condensing the elixir in the end. These are all precious and rare medicinal materials. It would be a pity to waste them. So I thought about saving them, but this is what happened. Yanxiangluo was frustrated. Road. Zhizhong really couldn't bear it this time, and his refreshing laughter echoed in the small courtyard. He just didn't want to waste the medicinal materials and wanted to save it. She actually succeeded in saving it, but she used another elixir with the opposite effect. How could his little girl be so powerful? You're still smiling? Yanxiangluo became angry with embarrassment. Zhizhong quickly controlled himself to hold back his laughter and coaxed the angry person, don't laugh, don't be angry. Medicinal materials are so rare that they cannot be wasted. Yanxiangluo glanced at him and looked at the elixirs in the stone nest worriedly, wondering what the problem was. Zhizhong picked up the elixir in the stone nest and looked at it. Although the name of Shenyang Dan and Poyang Dan were exactly the same, they had completely opposite effects. Refining the medicinal materials for the baby birth pill actually resulted in the baby broken pill. This should be impossible in anyone's eyes. After all, the two pill recipes are different, and the medicinal materials used are also rare. But the difference is still huge. Luoluo, what level is this baby breaking pill? Zhizhong asked. Yanxiangluo sighed, I don't know either. Zhizhong's phoenix eyes flashed with surprise. He had already refined the elixir, but he didn't know the level. He knew Luoluo's alchemy prowess very well. She didn't even know the level, so what was this elixir? Yanxiangluo's expression collapsed, and he continued, it's not a god-level pill, nor is it a 9th grade elixir. Zhizhong's phoenix eyes flashed with deep thought. It was not a 9th grade elixir, nor a god-level one. It should be somewhere in between. Human cultivation has a semi-god level, so does elixir also have a semi-god level? However, a person's cultivation level is at the demigod level, which is higher than the level. He can't figure out what this elixir is. How strong is the effect? Zhizhong could only judge the level of the elixir based on its effect. It can destroy the nascent soul of a god-level expert, Yanxiangluo said with certainty. Although this baby-breaking pill is not a god-level pill, she still knows the effect very well. Zhizhong's eyes narrowed. He is so strong? This baby-breaking pill is probably really somewhere between a 9th grade pill and a god grade pill. It seems that Luoluo will be able to refine a god-level elixir soon, Ji Zhong said with a smile. He put the poying pill back into the stone nest. Yan Xiangluo immediately put the poying pill away. This kind of pill could not be used easily. Destroying a person's nascent soul is equivalent to destroying his cultivation. After a monk condenses the nascent soul, if he loses the nascent soul again, he will never be able to condense the nascent soul again in this life, and his cultivation level will be reduced to the clan level, and he will be stagnant for the rest of his life. Almost no one uses this kind of elixir on the mainland. After all, the medicinal materials required for refining it are very valuable and cannot be afforded by ordinary people. And anyone who can let people use such elixirs is also a mortal enemy. Who is willing to spend such a high price to deal with the enemy? It is better to do it directly. Hence, both Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhong felt that although the baby-breaking pill was successful, there should be no chance of using it. What they don't know is that this elixir will be used soon. Qi Hao quit practicing when he was hungry and came out of the room. He found that Yan Xiangluo had not made dinner. He hurried to his grandfather's room to ask what was going on. It was not that he was clinging to Yan Xiangluo to cook, but he was worried that Mr. Yu had left. Qi Chang he looked at the anxious grandson and said, "Young master is refining elixirs. There should be no time to cook tonight." Qi Hao was relieved after hearing this. It would be better if he just left. Qi Chang he took a deep breath and asked, "Xiao Hao likes young master Yu very much." Qi Hao nodded sincerely and said in an admiring tone, "Young master Yu is very powerful. I want to be like him. If I asked you to leave with Mr. Yu, would Xiao Hao be willing?" Qi Chang he asked tentatively. Qi Hao's eyes lit up and he asked, "Grandpa, are you coming too?" Qi Chang he touched his grandson's head and said, "Grandpa still has things to do. Although he is young, his family has undergone tremendous changes in the past 3 months, and his family has almost been destroyed. Qi Hao is no longer a child who is inexperienced in the world." He knew what Grandpa was going to do, and he immediately said, "I'll go with Grandpa." Even though he liked Mr. Yu very much and wanted to follow him, compared with the blood feud, he still chose to take revenge with his grandfather. He could never forget the sight of his loved ones falling in front of him one by one. Qi Chang he sighed, "No, you don't worry about following Grandpa. Tomorrow, Grandpa will talk to Mr. Jun to see if he is willing to accept you as a medicine boy. If he is willing, it will be your fate. Cherish this opportunity. Mr. Jun is if you are a capable person, learn more about alchemy from young Master Yu, which will be beneficial to you in the future." Qi Chang he didn't have any hope that young Master Yu would accept his grandson as his disciple. After all, looking at young Master Yu's appearance, he could tell that he was not from an ordinary family. He was lucky enough to be able to accept his grandson as a medicine boy and keep him by his side. Qi Hao suddenly became anxious. He knew that his grandfather wanted to take revenge alone after he settled down, but he didn't want his grandfather to take risks alone. He didn't want to lose his only relative. "Grandpa, I will work hard to practice. Can I take revenge when I grow up?" Qi Hao knew that following his grandfather would be a drag on him just after he was able to practice, but he didn't want to lose his grandfather. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 342. Chapter 342. A piece of news. Qi Chang he felt very sad when he saw his grandson who was forced to grow up. He patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, Grandpa will break through to the level and then take revenge. If Grandpa can't finish it, just wait until Xiao Hao grows up to take revenge." "No, Grandpa, I will grow up soon." "Grandpa, don't go," Qi Hao cried anxiously. He was still a child after all. Qi Chang he sighed, "Xiao Hao, our family was almost wiped out this time. Although there were reasons for betrayal by trusted people, the main reason was us. Our Qi family has been passed down from generation to generation, and we all have the ability to find rare medicinal materials. We feel that this is just a way to make a living, but in the eyes of some people, it has become a means of making money. We do not have the foresight to be prepared for danger in times of peace, nor the ability to change when faced with danger. Even my grandfather, the most powerful person in the family, is being plotted against. Yes, what the family has experienced is inevitable. Chi Hao had tears on his face as he listened to his grandfather. Grandpa thought that the Chi family was really going to be exterminated this time, but in a twist of fate, Xiao Hao met young Master Yu, and we were able to survive, and with this encounter, in the final analysis, it was Xiao Hao who Hao's fate. The family that brought us here has not yet become a big deal. As long as Grandpa breaks through to the level, with Grandpa's strength, he can at least weaken the strongest strength of his family. This will also give you a chance to grow. If Grandpa cannot completely do it this time, I'll leave it to Xiao Hao to take revenge in the future, but definitely not now. Xiao Hao burst into tears. He knew he couldn't convince his grandfather, but he really didn't want to lose his only relative. Xiao Hao, you have to remember that even if you are needed to do this in the future, you will have to leave your bloodline after you get married and establish a career. You will be the only one left in the Qi family. You cannot let the bloodline of the Qi family be cut off. Between revenge and bloodline of the two, bloodline inheritance is more important. The thing that Qi Changhe is most worried about is his grandson. If young Master Yu can accept Xiao Hao as his medicine boy, he will have nothing to worry about. At least his grandson can grow up safely. What he has to do is to do his best to avenge his relatives. Even if he cannot eradicate all his enemies, he still has to kill all the enemies with high levels of cultivation to give his grandson time to grow up. The grandson is still young, and he can't understand why he did this. The grandson thinks that revenge can wait until later, but he doesn't know that they are two people, and one of them will have no big development prospects after he breaks through to the level. If he waits until later, it is immeasurable to what extent one's strength will increase by taking revenge on one's enemies. The two of them had a huge disparity in strength against the previous family, so the possibility of revenge was even slimmer. Qi Hao cried and shook his head, but he also understood that he could not change his grandfather's mind, and he felt extremely painful. Qi Changhe patted his grandson on the shoulder, took out a gift ring and put it on his hand. Wait a while for you to recognize the master. This is the wealth accumulated by our Qi family from generation to generation. You can use the spiritual stones in it for cultivation, and the rest you can make your own arrangements in the future. There is a brocade box inside, which contains the property deeds of our Qi family, including the ancestral home that they occupied. With your age and strength, you cannot get these things back or keep them. You can give them to Mr. Yu as a tribute to study with him. Qi Changhe lovingly arranged his grandson's future. These property deeds are like useless paper in the hands of the grandson, but if they fall into the hands of powerful people, they are wealth. They can not only make those enemies easier, but also let the master know that they know what they have in mind. Although it is a bit troublesome, it is not impossible. Qi Hao didn't say a word, but he was thinking in his heart. Although he really wanted to follow Mr. Yu, he had planned to do so before, and wanted to discuss it with his grandfather. But now he understands that the only thing that prevents his grandfather from taking revenge now is his own safety. If Mr. Yu really accepts him, Grandpa will definitely go for revenge alone without any hesitation. He had witnessed with his own eyes the process of his enemy killing his whole family, and he understood that even if his grandfather's cultivation level was restored and he broke through to the level, he would not be able to defeat so many people. So as long as he does not go with Mr. Yu, Grandpa will give up and take revenge immediately because he is worried about him. Although he was young and wanted to avenge his relatives, he did not want to do so at the expense of his grandfather. So he made a decision in his heart that even if young Master Yu agreed to accept him as a medicine boy, he would not go with young Master Yu. You are hungry, Grandpa will cook for you. The grandson has just awakened his spiritual roots. He has not yet reached the level where he does not need to eat, and he still needs to grow, so he must eat food. Here Chi Chang he went to cook for his grandson, and Ji Hong told Yan Xiangloo something. I heard the news today that starting from tomorrow morning, the entire town will conduct door-to-door identity checks. Yan Xiangloo was stunned for a moment, and she knew it was probably because of her without even thinking about it. In fact, Ji Hong heard more detailed information, which Ji went to investigate. Lu Ju issued an order that not only the border town where they were located, but also everyone traveling across other borders needed to check their identity documents. Not only the borders to the inner continent, but also the borders to other outer continents require strict identity checks. Ji Hong understood that Lu Ju saw that they had not confirmed their identity in any city and guessed that they wanted to go to the inner continent or other outer continents. Yan Xiangloo sighed, before, you said there was a way to go to the inner continent. Is it still feasible now? If leaving is imminent, Yan Xiangloo is willing to give up the Earth-type 5-element beads no matter how reluctant she is. As long as the promotion pills are refined for the 3 white eagles, they will leave immediately. Ji Hong smiled confidently, don't worry, you can make alchemy with peace of mind. We must get the 5-element earth beads. Since he was a child, he has encountered many difficulties. This is nothing. What he wants to get, he must get it. Especially the Earth-type 5-element beads, he knew very well that this was probably the only opportunity to get the Earth-type 5-element beads, and he must not miss it. Can we not stay here any longer? Yan Xiangloo knew Ji Hong's abilities very well. Since he said so, there was a way to solve the current predicament. We will leave at dawn tomorrow, Ji Hong said. Where to go? Yan Xiangloo asked. Luoluo thinks where is the place Lu Ju thinks we are least likely to go to right now, Ji Hong asked without answering. Yan Xiangloo frowned and thought about it. In Lu Yu's eyes, there was only one place they were least likely to go, and that was Musui City. In Lu Yu's mind, he thought that going to Musui City was equivalent to throwing himself into a trap, but the most dangerous place is often the most unexpected place, and it is also the safest place at the moment. Musui City, Ruan Xiangloo said. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 343. Chapter 343 Xiao House Choice. Yes, anyway, if we want to get the Earth Element 5 Elements Pearl, we have to go to Musui City. Originally, I wanted to go get the Earth Element 5 Element Pearl by myself and then we will leave for the inner continent. Now it seems that we have to go together. Ji Hong twisted his slender fingers. Musui City is a place where the powerful people from the Musui continent gather. With their cultivations, it would be impossible for the two of them to hide themselves in front of a god-level powerhouse using the face-changing profound pattern. Therefore, it would be very dangerous to get there. But now the situation is different. Lu Ju is determined that they will not go to Musui City and will focus all their energy on the border. Even other cities have stricter inspections than Musui City. At this time, it is relatively easier for them to go to Musui City than to any other city. No place is safe. Yan Xiangloo understood what Ji Hong meant. Are we still coming back here? Ji Hong shook his head. After we get the 5-element earth beads, we will find the nearest border and leave. My method will be equally useful at any border. Since he had already made a plan, Xiangloo didn't say anything else. You must tell Chi Hao and the others. Ji Hong said, let's go over and talk. We will get up early and leave early tomorrow morning. Ruan Xiang lowered her head. Since the door-to-door identity search would begin tomorrow morning, they had to leave before the search. They could not cause unnecessary trouble to Chi Hao and his grandson. They could not leave without saying goodbye, so they had no choice but to leave today. It's too late to say something. The two came to the main courtyard and met Chi Changhe, who was about to deliver dinner to them. Seeing the two of them coming, Chi Changhe said, "My cooking skills are average, and the two young masters feel wronged." After all, there was no need for him to cook before. Although the Chi family was not a big family, it was still a wealthy family. Not to mention that there were servants to serve and there were women, so men like them didn't need to cook at all. His ability to cook is also due to his experience in going out when he was young. At that time, he had not yet reached the level of cultivation that did not require eating, so he learned to cook, but his cooking skills were indeed average. Yan Xiangloo saw Chi Hao wilted and his eyes were red, and raised his eyebrows. Why did this child's eyes become red from crying? What happened? The spiritual consciousness checked and found that his body was normal, so it was not a matter of cultivation or health. We won't have dinner. We came here to say goodbye to you. We will leave early tomorrow morning, Yuan Xiangloo said. Chi Changhe was stunned. Didn't he say that he would stay for a few more days? Why was he leaving so suddenly? Although he was confused, this was a private matter and he couldn't interfere. Thinking of his grandson's affairs, Chi Changhe invited the two of them to the main room. "Young master, there is something I wanted to discuss with you tomorrow morning, but you two have to leave tomorrow morning, so I will talk to you now." Chi Changhe went straight to the topic. Ji Zhong raised his eyes and knew what Chi Changhe was going to say. "Please speak." Yan Xiangloo made a gesture of invitation. Chi Changhe glanced at his grandson. "To be honest with you two young masters, our Chi family has been making a living by selling medicinal materials for generations. Just because our Chi family bloodline has a special ability, that is, we have an inspiration for rare medicinal materials. We can easily collect some rare medicinal materials. The Chi family makes a living because of this ability, but it is also because of this ability that we are the only two left. Mr. Yu is very skilled in medicine and has a strong talent in alchemy. He has been interested in alchemy since he was a child. Because he had never awakened his spiritual roots and could not become an alchemist, he was not allowed to learn alchemy. However, because his family is in the medicinal materials business, he knows the medicinal materials very well. I wonder if Mr. Can you accept Xiao Hao as a medicine boy by your side and introduce him to alchemy?" Ji Zhong narrowed his eyes. Chi Changhe was quite shrewd. Knowing that it would not be easy for Luo to accept his grandson as his disciple, he took a roundabout approach and stayed with Luo as a medicine boy. The requirements were very low, as long as he introduced Chi Hao to learn alchemy. After that, Chi Hao's talent for alchemy slowly emerged and caught Luo's eyes. It was not impossible to become her disciple. Yan Xiangloo was stunned. She really didn't expect Chi Changhe to have such a plan. Ji Zhong asked her before if she wanted to accept Chi Hao as her disciple. Yan Xiangloo glanced at Chi Hao. The little guy was not in a good mood and felt depressed. Although she did like Chi Hao very much, she couldn't guarantee that she had never thought of accepting a disciple. However, it would be a pity to miss such a good prospect. While Chi Changhe was waiting for Yu Xiangloo's decision, Chi Hao suddenly stood up and said, "I don't want to go with Master Yu." The three of them all looked at him. Yan Xiangloo saw that Chi Hao's eyes were filled with tears, his eyes were extremely tangled, his tone was choked, and his almond-shaped eyes paused. "Xiao Hao, listen to Grandpa." Chi Changhe was anxious. If he missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to find such a strong master for his grandson again. Chi Hao said stubbornly, "No, Grandpa, I don't want to lose you." Yan Xiangloo and Ji Zhong looked at each other. Chi Changhe's body had been cured by Yan Xiangloo. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was in better health now than before. Why did Chi Hao say that his grandfather seemed to be about to die? Woolen cloth. Yan Xianglou suddenly understood that although they did not say what happened, the only two people left in the Qi family were his grandfather and grandson, which meant that the family had been wiped out, and naturally there was a blood feud. Qi Changhe wanted to entrust his grandson to him. He wanted to entrust his grandson to him. Go to avenge your loved ones, I'm afraid this trip will never come back. Although she cannot sympathize with their blood feud, she also understands their desire to avenge their relatives, but she does not agree with their method of revenge. But they are neither relatives nor friends, just a chance meeting, just a transaction. I have no position to advise them, let alone make any decision for them. I'm sorry, we are traveling across the mainland. I don't need a medicine boy, and it's not convenient to take a child with me. Yan Xianglou didn't want to listen to the argument between their grandfather and grandson. Even if she had wanted to take Qi Hao as her disciple, she had given up her mind now because she knew very well that as long as she took Qi Hao away, it would be equivalent to giving Qi Changhe a chance to die. And Qi Hao also made a decision. Even without her mind-reading skills, she could tell that Qi Hao wanted to follow her, but gave up in order not to lose his grandfather. He was a filial child, and filial people will not have bad conduct. She is also willing to fulfill him. Qi Changhe's eyes darkened. As a person who has lived for decades, he naturally knew that after his grandson said these words, "Master, you would not accept them even if he had the intention." It would be false to say that he has no regrets, but he can't say anything about his grandson. This child gave up the opportunity for him. What can he say about such a filial child? In the final analysis, he is still young and does not understand the importance of opportunities to him. It seems that he will indeed teach Xiao Hao personally for a while. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 344. Chapter 344, Want to Learn Medicine. Qi Changhe did not continue this topic. Originally, I wanted to go collect condensed pearl grass for young Master Yu tomorrow, but young Master Yu has to leave early tomorrow morning, and there is no time. I don't know where young Master Yu will stay for the next few days. I will collect it. Return the Ningzhu grass to Mr. Yu. Ningzhuko Xianglou is really urgently needed and cannot be refused. She and Jizhong looked at each other. Qi Changhe was so good at doing things, why was the family still in such a bad situation? Jizhong glanced at Qi Changhe Road and said, "If you can collect Ningzhu grass, let us know and we will get it." Yan Xianglou took out the sound transmission stone and asked Qi Changhe to input the breath of his sound transmission stone. Qi Changhe took out a new sound transmission stone and gave it to Qi Hao, and then used Qi Hao's sound transmission stone to communicate with Yan Xianglou's sound transmission stone. Shi Lianchen became a good friend. The sound transmission stone can only be used by monks, because its use requires the input of spiritual power. Qi Hao has never awakened his spiritual roots, and cannot use it without spiritual power, so he has not had it. Yan Xianglou did not refuse, understanding that Qi Changhe wanted to give his grandson a chance, and she really liked Qi Hao. And she is not at all opposed to Qi Changhe's approach of putting things out in the open. Qi Changhe asked Qi Hao to take out the brocade box and put it in front of Yan Xianglou. "Master Yu, here are all the house deeds of my Qi family. There are a total of 16 deeds in several cities in the mainland, including the Qi family's deeds, the ancestral home. We, my grandfather and my grandson, can't get these properties back. If young Master Jun doesn't think it's a trouble, we can treat him as if we were willing to help him heal me and help Xiao Hao awaken his spiritual roots. Although we can't repay young Master Jun, it's a big favor, but it's also our intention. Apart from the ancestral home, everything else should be easy to get." A dark light flashed through Ruan Xianglou's apricot eyes. Qi Changhe was indeed very shrewd. These fixed assets were equivalent to waste paper in the hands of their grandfather and grandson. Even though they had the deed, they did not dare to take them back. Taking the property was equivalent to giving it away. Come and kill someone. Giving it to her can not only repay her kindness, but also make the enemy's plan fail, killing two birds with one stone. But he said it frankly, and it was not objectionable. However, it is useless for her to want these fixed assets now. After all, she cannot protect herself, so she has no time and experience to manage these properties. However, she inexplicably wanted to keep the family wealth for Chi Hao. She looked at Ji Zhong. She had no one in her hands to do the work, and she couldn't manage so many properties if she wanted them back. As for hiring local people, she couldn't trust them. But Ji Zhong was different. He was used by people, but he didn't know when Chang Feng and the others would come to the higher continent. The two of them just looked at each other, and Ji Zhong understood what she meant and nodded. Take it, I'll arrange for someone to take care of it. Yan Xiang was relieved, so Chang Feng and the others should be here soon. Ji Zhong's estimate of his people's strength should be very accurate. He must have arranged for Chang Feng and the others when he left the lower continent, and he also knew the approximate time for them to come to the higher continent. She was not worried about whether Chang Feng and the others could come to the higher continent, but she was worried about whether they could pass the Xuanhuan hurdle and not be fooled. I also thought that their master Ji Zhong was so shrewd that he could be described as cunning. His subordinates who have been with him for so many years must have learned a bit of his shrewdness so that they would not be fooled. Otherwise, how could Ji Zhong be so smart? Not worried. Chi Chang he felt relieved when he saw that they accepted the deeds happily. He would be really worried if Yan Xiangluo refused to accept the deeds. Although he had the intention of taking advantage of them when he gave away these house deeds, he did not hide his thoughts. He told Ruan Xiangluo openly that he did not want these house deeds to fall into the hands of his enemies, so he gave them to Ruan Xiang with two birds with one stone. Fall. Yan Xiangluo didn't say that he accepted these property deeds because he wanted to keep them for Chi Hao. She directly pushed the brocade box containing the house deed to Ji Zhong, and Ji Zhong naturally put it away. Xiao Hao, do you really want to become an alchemist? Yan Xiangluo asked. Chi Hao nodded, I really want to. Why do you want to become an alchemist? Yan Xiangluo asked again. If you want to succeed in learning any skill, hard work alone is not enough. The most important thing is preference and talent. Chi Hao has talent in alchemy, and it is pretty good, but talent alone is not enough. If you don't like the skills you have learned, it will be difficult to persist, and it will be even harder to achieve high achievements. Look at those powerful people who have achieved great things. Which skill they are good at is not something they sincerely like. Chi Hao blinked and said, I like medicinal herbs and alchemy, so I want to become an alchemist. After finishing his words, he added another sentence, I want to become an alchemist like Mr. Yu. Yan Xiangluo smiled. This boy is also smart. He will probably be even smarter than his grandfather when he grows up. Do you want to learn medicine? Chi Hao's eyes lit up when he heard this, and then he replied solemnly to Yu Xiangluo, I never thought about it before. I used to think that medical skills are of little use and are not as magical and direct as the effects of elixirs. But since I met young Master Yu, especially after seeing Master Yu save my grandfather with his medical skills, and I realized that people with superb medical skills can fight against death, so I really want to learn medical skills now. He used two special words in a row to express his desire to learn medicine. Before meeting Yan Xiangluo, in his heart, his grandfather was about to die, so after Yan Xiangluo not only saved his grandfather but also restored his grandfather's cultivation, Chi Hao's medical skills took over his mind. A higher position than alchemy. Even if the elixir can save people, without superb medical skills, his grandfather may be able to survive without superb medical skills. Even with the elixir, his grandfather may be able to survive, but his cultivation level cannot be restored. This is what my grandpa told him when he was impressed by Mr. Yu's superb medical skills. Hearing this, Yan Xiangluo took out a map of human acupoints and spread it out on the table. Learning medical skills is much more boring than refining alchemy, and there are more things to learn. This is a map of human acupuncture points. If you want to have superb medical skills, you need to know a person's body structure, acupuncture points, meridians, etc. Chi Hao came to Yan Xianglue with interest and looked at the acupointment map on the table. Are the dots on it the human acupuncture points? Yan Xianglue nodded. Each acupuncture point has a number. The name of the acupuncture point is written behind the corresponding number on the acupuncture point map. You need to write down all these acupoints. You must be able to read these acupoints with your eyes closed. If you think about it in your mind, you can accurately find the location of these acupoints on a person when you see him. If you can do this, I will give you a medical book next time we meet. Chi Hao's eyes suddenly lit up. I can definitely do it. Chi Chang he didn't expect that Yan Xianglue would give such a precious acupuncture point map to his grandson. He immediately stood up and said, "Thank you, Mr. Yan. Ladies, the second update is at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon." End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 345. Chapter 345 Like me. Yan Xianglue waved her hand. I'm just introducing him. Whether he can succeed in his studies depends on himself. And Xiao Hao, you have to promise that you will never use the medical skills you have learned to harm others. Of course, I mean the most important thing is to take the initiative to harm innocent people. As for your enemies and those who want to harm you, don't be polite. To learn the skills, you must first protect yourself before you can protect the people you want to protect. Chi Hao immediately raised his hand to make an oath, but was stopped by Yan Xianglue. Although the restraint of the oath is very effective, I hope you can restrain yourself. What should and should not be done? You have the ability to make your own decisions. How far you can go in cultivation depends on how high your virtue is. You cannot let God make the decision for you. It is better to take control of your life. I believe in you. If you promise today, I will definitely do it. No one has ever believed in him so much. Chi Hao was very excited. Chi Hao will definitely do it. He will never forget the teachings of Mr. Yu today. It was only then that Chi Chang he understood that Mr. Yu really liked his grandson, was very optimistic about his talent, and trusted his conduct. The main reason why he didn't agree to grandson being his medicine boy before was that grandson was worried about him, and Mr. Yu didn't want him to die in revenge for taking away Xiao Hao. Although Mr. Yu looks noble, he does not have the arrogance and ruthlessness of a nobleman. He has his own bottom line in his actions, which is difficult for people in the world to achieve. Yan Xianglue stood up and said, whether you are learning medical skills or refining elixirs, the familiarity with medicinal herbs is very demanding. You must not only know the medicinal herbs, but also understand their medicinal properties. This is very important for prescribing the right medicine and refining elixirs in the future. Thank you Mr. Yu for your guidance. I will definitely work hard to identify the acupuncture points and the medicinal properties of the herbs. Chi Hao solemnly gave a gift to Yu Xianglue. In fact, he wanted to kowtow to Yu Xianglue, but that was something that only an apprentice could do. He hopefully one day he can do it. I believe you can do it. Yan Xianglue patted Chi Hao on the shoulder, and then went back to the small courtyard where they lived with Ji Zhong. Back in the small courtyard, Ji Zhong looked at her and said, "Is this your talent?" Yan Xianglue pursed her lips and said, "Not really, I just thought that it might be fate for me to meet him. When I was studying medicine, I learned it by myself from books. In order to accurately control these acupuncture points, I had countless needles inserted into my body, and I often fainted. I couldn't function for several days, so I became familiar with the silver needle technique in order to make the prescriptions I prepared more accurate. When it comes to treating patients, I have read through the herbal books, memorized the medicinal properties of each herb, and tried to improve the prescription countless times. I have formulated the most suitable prescription for the patient's specific situation, which is why I have the medical skills I have today. Ji Zhong heard her talk about how she learned this skill for the first time. He was very curious about how she managed to develop such good medical skills while avoiding the eyes of so many people in the Tianshan Empire at such a young age. But one thing he knows very well is that anyone with super abilities does not come easily. It requires hard work and effort that ordinary people cannot imagine. Just like himself, in order to learn weapon refining and formations, it took all the time. After all, his body was different from that of a normal child, so he had to work harder. Yan Xiangluo turned to look at the main courtyard. I want to see if there can be anyone like me. What she said was actually about the time when she was in poor health. She was able to possess such superb medical skills because she wanted to heal herself and have a healthy body, which was a strong spiritual pillar to support her. Although Qi Hao's experience was miserable, he was still different from her. If he could persevere and memorize these acupuncture point maps and the medicinal properties of herbs, it would not be impossible to accept him as his disciple when the time was right. After all, she also wants to have a successor to her medical skills, so that she can save more people, especially people like her who once longed to be healthy. Ji Zhong admired Yan Xiangluo's broad-mindedness. It was difficult for someone in this world to pass on their skills to others without reservation. The little girl he liked was more generous than he thought. In this comparison, he seems to be very selfish and somewhat unworthy of his little girl. Get some rest. I'm afraid there won't be time to rest so peacefully after tomorrow. Yan Xiangluo didn't want to dwell on this matter anymore. She gave Qi Hao the opportunity. Whether he could seize it or not depends on him. This can be regarded as a test for him to enter the teacher's sect. Okay, sleep peacefully, I'll call you tomorrow morning. Ji Zhong didn't say anything more. Yan Xiangluo returned to the room and did not continue to study alchemy. She really lay down on the bed to sleep and rest. However, she called Zetian out to keep watch. This was already her habit, and Zetian was also used to keeping watch for her master. Neither it nor Yun Tuan are war pets and cannot help their master in battle. The master has never disliked them. Therefore, in other aspects, they will do their best to repay their master for their kindness. Early the next morning, as soon as it was light, Ji Zhong woke up Yan Xiangluo. Yan Xiangluo rubbed her eyes and looked outside. Are you leaving now? Well, house-to-house searches have begun in the town. Ji Zhong kept Wuji outside and was very aware of what was going on in the town. Originally, they wanted her to sleep for a while after seeing her sleeping soundly. However, the town actually started checking her identity so early. They had to leave immediately to avoid causing trouble to Qi Changhe and his grandson. You started investigating so early, Yan Xiangluo suddenly woke up. This is the only time when everyone is here, Ji Zhong explained. Yan Xiangluo immediately got out of bed, collected her things, washed briefly, and left Qi's house with Ji Zhong. They used the formation disc and teleported directly outside Muzui City. Qi Changhe's cultivation level is higher than that of Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhong, so he knew when the two left, but didn't bother them. He also knew their attitude last night, and they would not come to say hello again this morning. He looked towards the noisy direction of the town, feeling a little confused. Did the two people's departure have something to do with the search? He then shook his head. The search happened temporarily. How could they know about it in advance? Maybe it was just a coincidence. He glanced at his grandson who was still cultivating after not sleeping all night, and sighed with relief. When his grandson knew that young Master Yu had left, he would definitely be disappointed. At this time, Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhong were more than 10 miles away from Muzui City. It was still early, there was not a single pedestrian on the road, and in the distance we could see the city of Muzui in the morning light. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 346. Chapter 346. The speed is fast. In any case, it is also the center of power in the Musui continent. The Musui city is towering and majestic, with a domineering atmosphere. Just looking at it from a distance gives you a sense of oppression, like a tiger lying there, looking at you eagerly. It finally feels like a higher continent, Yan Xiangloo said with emotion. Ji Zhozhong said dotingly, Luoluo never felt like he was in a higher continent. That's not the case. I just feel that except for the stronger spiritual energy here and the monks' cultivation strength being stronger than the people from the lower continent, the rest is no different from the lower continent. Today I saw that Musui city finally has the kind of high-level mainland, the feeling of being superior, Yan Xiangloo explained. This is only the outer continent. The real forces in the higher continent are all in the inner continent. Ji Zhozhong glanced at Musui city. When they go to the inner continent, this sense of superior oppression should be seen everywhere. Yan Xiangloo naturally understood that what Ji Zhozhong said was the truth. After dragging on one thing after another, she didn't know when they would be able to go to the inner continent. She can't go into the city these days, and she can't ask for news about her parents and master. She couldn't find out about them before. Ji Zhozhong also analyzed her willingness. It's probably because they didn't stay in the Musui continent or didn't stay outside. After all, the higher continent is too big and the distribution of forces is too complicated. Now they are standing outside Musui city. Musui city is the center of power in Musui continent, the most prosperous city, and the place where all kinds of news are concentrated. They should be able to receive information from other continents and the inner continent in a more timely manner. Can you get some news? It's still an hour and a half before the city gate opens. Let's have breakfast first. Although Yan Xiangloo was woken up before she woke up, she felt energetic now. For her, food is a must as long as there is time. Jiju nodded and said, "Go to Pangulai to eat?" He specifically only mentioned Pangu and not the space, because he was worried that he would get used to it and let it slip that Yan Xiangloo had the space he carried with him. Yan Xiangloo looked around. There was no shelter here. If there were too many people later, it would be inconvenient to get out. If you think about it, there are a lot of people on the road, and the two of them appeared out of thin air, although it can also be understood as using a teleportation array or teleportation pattern. But it is inevitable that those who are interested can see that no matter whether they use the teleportation array or the teleportation text, they will leave their own auras. They will not have these two auras when they come out of the space. Ji Zhozhong took her hand and walked in one direction. There are several huge rocks there that can block the view. Yan Xiangloo was now used to being held by Ji Zhozhong. The two came to some rocks and found a place that could block the view of people on the mainland. Yan Xiangloo let Ji Zhozhong into the space. Yan Xiangloo glanced at the spiritual spring in the space and asked, "Why is this spiritual spring dripping so fast?" Ji Zhozhong raised his head and glanced at the space stone milk. The spiritual spring that was originally dripping drop by drop was about to turn into a small stream of water. Although the water flow was only as thick as his little finger, it was relatively less than the amount of spiritual energy that they knew could drop in a bowl for hundreds of years. Quan, this speed is already faster than they imagined. It's indeed much faster. There hasn't been much change in space recently. How come the spiritual springs have turned from drop by drop to water? Yan Xiangloo was very puzzled. Ji Zhozhong was very sure that the spiritual spring water in the space was not so fast last time. Although it was fast at that time, it was just one drop after another. Fortunately, there is a pool you refined, otherwise I wouldn't know what to do with so much spiritual spring water. Yan Xiangloo didn't understand the reason either, but he was fortunate that Ji Zhozhong refined a pool for him that could increase as the spiritual spring water increased. Enlarged pool. Then she asked worriedly, "Does this pool have a maximum capacity?" Ji Zhejiang nodded and said, "Yes, the maximum capacity of this pool is the capacity of the space stone I used. It should be as big as the 5-color lake in Hope Sea Forest." Yan Xiangluo once almost absorbed the power of the 5 elements in the 5-color lake, so she naturally knew how big the 5-color lake was. He patted his heart and said, "Fortunately, the capacity of the pool is large enough." Ji Zhong said in a funny voice, "I just hope that the flow of water in this spiritual spring will not be too big." Yan Xiangluo waved her hand, "It doesn't matter if it's big. If it can't fit, just use it to water the ground." She planted so many rare medicinal materials in the space, and also planted some spiritual rice and vegetables. If watered with spiritual spring water, the spiritual energy contained in the medicinal materials and rice vegetables would be even stronger. Ji Zhong nodded in agreement, "This is a good idea." If he had said this before they entered the secret space of Lingquan, he really wouldn't believe it. Just because they experienced the Lingquan incident, they will be able to remain calm no matter what strange and incredible things they encounter in the future. Such a big lake, and looking at the small water flow of the stone milk spirit spring in space, Yan Xiangluo immediately stopped worrying. However, it seems that this space is not enough, so we need to move the space stone milk to another place. Looking into the space with his smart eyes, he changed the direction of the pond that Ji Zhong was refining, facing the mountains in the distance. In this way, even if the pond turned into a lake, the space would still be enough, and the tree hanging with the stone milk of the empty year would be enough. No need to move. Ji Zhong understood what she meant when he saw her changing the direction of the pool. Yan Xiangluo glanced at Yun Tuan, who had been practicing on the space stone milk. Yun Tuan seemed to have been practicing recently and seemed a little different from usual. Even though it often practiced on the space stone milk in the past, it would rest for a while when I came in, waiting for you to cook delicious food for it. It didn't seem to move recently. Could it be that in the higher continent, Yun Tuan will finally awaken the abilities and skills of its divine beast? I'm going to cook. Yan Xiangluo didn't think much about it. Anyway, in her own space, nothing would happen to the clouds, and she ran towards the kitchen. Suddenly she remembered something, stopped and looked at Ji Zhong and said, "I own the Copper Palace in Wanghai Forest. There is a training space inside. Do you want to go in and give it a try?" Ji Zhong could have gone to the inner mainland to do what he wanted to do, but she kept putting it off for her own sake. Although she felt that this was what she should do when she liked someone, she couldn't let Ji Zhong do it all by himself. Ji Zhong accompanies her through these experiences, and she gives him opportunities to experience. No matter what kind of relationship it is, it must come and go to last, and the same is true for love. Just imagine how long this relationship can last if a person gives blindly. Although Yan Xiangluo has never had a relationship experience in her 2 lives, it does not mean that she is different. I think her novels are for nothing. There are too many plots of love and hatred in her mind. Before, it was because Ji Zhong didn't know the existence of Pangu space and there was no suitable place to put the palace for him to practice, so she didn't mention it. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 347. Chapter 347 Sense something wrong. Now Ji Zhong already knows about the existence of Pangu space. The palace can be placed in the space, and Ji Zhong can go in and practice. Ji Zhong's eyes lit up. Okay. What he needs most now is a suitable place for training. He didn't expect Luoluo to have such a treasure. This girl is so lucky that she actually claimed the palace in Wanghai Forest. Yan Xiangluo was very interested in seeing Ji Zhong. With a thought, the bronze palace given to her by her senior brother fell into the space with a rumble. Opening the palace door facing them, I haven't gone in to experience it yet, so I don't know what the situation is inside. If there is a life-threatening situation, I can sense it and will take you out immediately. Ji Judian nodded, okay, I'll go in and try first, but as long as it's not life-threatening, don't take me out. If he wants to break through himself, every experience must be experienced in life and death. Although he now pretends to be a person in his heart and cherishes his own life, since it is an experience, he must reach the limit, so as to have the effect of experience. Okay, Yan Xiangluo agreed. She naturally knew the best level of intensity of training. Only when one surpasses one's own strength can it be considered as experience, otherwise it can only be regarded as exercise. Ji Zhong walked into the palace gate. The door closed automatically. It seemed that only one person could enter at a time. I just don't know if there are people inside to practice, and whether people can go in again to practice. With the thought, she thought about opening another door. When the door opened, Yan Xiangluo understood that people who went into practice could not go in groups, but could only go in alone. Therefore, people had to go in one by one. This is good. When they have time in the future, the two of them can practice at the same time. Yan Xiangluo is not worried about Ji Zhong's safety. The palace belongs to her and is connected to her consciousness. She is very clear about Ji Zhong's situation inside. If there is any danger to his life, she can bring him out with just a thought. Yan Xiangluo paid attention to Ji Zhong while cooking. After finishing the meal, she was not in a hurry to ask Ji Zhong to come out. It was still an hour before the gates of Muzui City were to be opened. Through Ji Zhong's experience inside, Yan Xiangluo understood the rules of this palace. It should be that the people who enter have different levels of cultivation, and the difficulty of the experience is also different. The dangers you experience are changing at any time, and they change according to your strength. In other words, every minute and every second you spend inside is the ultimate consumption of your strength. The experience Ji Zhong has gone through now would never be possible if it were her. Time passed little by little. Yan Xiangluo looked at the time. It was almost time for the gates of Muzui City to be opened. She looked at Ji Zhong again. It was a critical moment for training and she could not be disturbed at this time. With a look of apricot eyes, he ate first, then changed his face, changed his clothes, and went out with Zetian. I stretched my head and glanced at the official road leading to Muzui City, and I could already see people who were about to enter the city. Although there are many people riding flying spirit beasts and using teleportation patterns and teleportation arrays, there are also many chariots and horses. Yan Xiangluo said to Zetian, I will go into the space, and you can take the space dependent or the carriage into the city. Having done it once before, I can say that it is very easy and I don't find it difficult at all. Master, don't worry, I'll hide under that carriage. Zetian pointed to a carriage speeding not far away. Pay attention to safety. If there is a mysterious mirror, you must avoid it. If you can't avoid it, hide in the space immediately. Yan Xiangluo warned again, then dropped the space on Jishan and entered the space again. Then he felt that Zetian was running towards the carriage at an extremely fast speed. Fortunately, there were overgrown weeds on the ground, and the sky was reduced to the smallest form of vines. The carriage ran close to the weeds and was not conspicuous at all. As if Jishan had calculated the speed and distance, he arrived just as the carriage arrived. The vines wrapped around the shaft of the carriage and hid under the carriage. Yan Xiangluo could not see clearly outside immediately because the dust brought up by the wheels and the two horses in front was comparable to the sandstorms she had seen in movies in her previous life, blocking her sight. Estimating the speed of the carriage, it would take a quarter of an hour to reach the city gate. She stopped looking and glanced at Ji Zhong to see that he could still persist. She was filled with admiration. Sure enough, everyone's success is inseparable from hard work. While everyone in the Tianchen continent envied Ji Zhong's talent and cultivation strength, no one knew how much price and effort he had to pay for it. His almond-shaped eyes turned, hey, why are there still numbers flashing on the palace? Yan Xiangloo had never seen numbers on the palace before. At this time, there was a big word on the copper-colored palace. A bright light flashed in Yan Xiangloo's mind. Could it be showing time? It has been an hour since Xuanhuan went into practice. This number does not mean the time he went into practice, right? But what is the purpose of showing the time? At this moment, Yan Xiangloo felt that she didn't understand the space magic weapon given to her by her senior brother at all. Since the revealed numbers must have an effect, maybe we will find out when Xuanhuan comes out. At this time, Xuanhuan was very embarrassed. After all, every training level was set according to his peak strength. In the past, every training level was not easy. It almost made him try his best, and sometimes it even exceeded his strength. However, he also discovered that every time a power level passed, the spiritual power he consumed would be restored to the 8th level, but the difficulty of the next level would be higher. After a few times, he discovered that although he only recovered 8 levels of spiritual power each time, it was actually much stronger than the 8 levels of spiritual power he had when he came in. In other words, his spiritual power is actually improving after passing each experience level. After discovering this, Xuanhuan was excited. This is really a good place for experience. Suddenly I forgot about what Ruan Xiangloo had done before coming in to cook, and that they had to go to the city at the end of the year. They had already begun to practice selflessly. The copper tower belonged to Yan Xiangloo, so she naturally sensed the change in Xuanhuan's cultivation aura, and couldn't help but murmur, secretly thinking, it seems that she has underestimated the training effect of the copper tower, and she must find an opportunity to go in and practice. However, she also knows that the most important thing now is to become a god-level alchemist, refine a god-level birth pill, and obtain the Earth-type 5-element beads. But she was about to enter the City of Twilight, and she couldn't do anything during this time, so she just wandered around the space. To be honest, she has never walked through space so leisurely. The atmosphere in Pangu's space was much better than that outside, which was the main reason why she never felt anything when she came to the higher continent. She has never looked at the mountains in the distance. She doesn't know when they appeared. Anyway, she was on her way to the higher continent. She suddenly noticed something was wrong. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 348. Chapter 348 Uneasy Feeling. Pangu's space seemed to have been changing silently since she came to the higher continent, except for that big change. Unknowingly, it became more and more similar to the outside world, but she didn't notice it at all, and she didn't feel it. Something is wrong, this is so abnormal. Every change in space used to be very noisy, but now why is it so silent? Just like those mountains in the distance, she didn't know exactly when they appeared. The most important thing was that she didn't feel anything was wrong. Could it be that at some point that she didn't know, Pangu's space changed into something that she didn't know about? What she is most worried about is not the changes in the space, but that the changes in the space have become invisible to her as the master. Will one day the space lose her control? Although there are sporadic records about portable spaces in some ancient books she has read, no portable space is as weird as hers. Suddenly, Yan Xiangloo felt a little unsure. She has not carefully sensed anything in the space, but one thing she knows without having to sense it is that there is nothing useless in Pangu's space. It was only then that she realized why Pangu's space existed, and what was the reason for its changes. Are you really its owner? An uneasy feeling came over me. Master, this is for you. Yan Xiangloo's thoughts were interrupted by Wu Shuang's voice. Then she saw the formless Xuanhuan transformed into a small human form, holding a shiny ball the size of a little finger cap and handed it to her. What is this? Yan Xiangloo asked, holding the bead with her fingers. She could feel the rich spiritual energy in the bead. Xuanhuan said with a proud tone, This is the Yuan pearl condensed after my promotion. It contains my most pure power. After the master takes it, the spiritual root will become stronger and stronger. Yanziongloo's spiritual roots have been nurtured to the limit by Wushuan these days. It is no longer possible to increase the spiritual root level by simply absorbing Wushuan's spiritual energy. But now that Wushuan gave her a Yuan bead, does it mean that this Yuan bead can continue to improve the quality and strength of her spiritual roots? Can you continue to improve the quality of my spiritual roots? Yanziongloo said in surprise. Wushuan's soft body danced in mid-air. Of course, Yuanzu is much more powerful than my spiritual energy. You also had Yuanzu before, Yanziongloo asked. Wushuan suddenly shrank. No, this is the first one. Wushuan then became cheerful again, but there will be more in the future, mainly due to its contribution. Yanziongloo looked at the direction Wushuan pointed, which was the space stone milk. Since coming in, Wushuan has been practicing on the space stone milk with Yun Tuan. The space stone milk of emotions is of great help to the cultivation of spiritual beasts and spiritual consciousness bodies. Wushuan has not advanced for so long since he formed his spiritual consciousness. He has only been cultivating in the space stone milk for a few days, and he has actually advanced. Although it has accumulated over a long period of time, it also proves how powerful the effect of space stalactite is. After all, one drop of the spiritual spring dripping from the space stone milk can change the fate of the monk. Can others eat it too? Yanziongloo asked. Wushuan shook his head and said, the power of the Yuanzu is very strong, and ordinary people's spiritual roots cannot bear it. The master has a contract with me, and will not be exploded by the power of the Yuanzu. If the Yuanzu cannot be absorbed, it will be temporarily preserved. If others cannot absorb it at once, it will burst the spirit root and break it into pieces. Yanziongloo was still frightened. She also thought that if others could eat it, she would give Jiji's Xuanhuan to eat. In this case, let's forget it. No matter how good her medical skills are, she can't cure the roots that are broken into pieces. Eat it directly. Yanziongloo looked at the small Yuan bead in her hand and wondered how such a small one could have such strong power. Wushuan said, just eat it directly. After eating, the owner will not need to pay attention to it. It will automatically nourish the owner's spiritual roots. When the spiritual roots are saturated, it will stop. When the spiritual roots are needed again, it will continue to absorb the spirit roots. The root absorbs until the power of Yuanzu is completely absorbed. Wushuan made it so clear that Yanziongloo put the Yuanzu into her mouth without hesitation. The Yuanzu was very small. As soon as it entered her mouth, she scratched it, automatically reached her danshan, and then attached to her 5 spiritual root tree. The power in the Yuanzu was continuously input into her spiritual roots, and she could clearly sense it. Changes to the spiritual root tree. Her spiritual roots are the 5 spiritual roots condensed together, and have always been 5 colors. However, after Wushuan's previous cultivation, the color of her spiritual roots has turned into one color, transparent color, although it can still be seen that it is a 5-element spiritual root. The roots are twisted together to form spiritual roots, but there is no difference in color. But as soon as the power of Yuanzu entered the spiritual roots, she found that the dividing line between the 5 spiritual roots became blurred. She was extremely shocked. Could it be that her spiritual roots would merge into a real spiritual root? Is that still a 5 series power? She quickly sensed the different types of spiritual roots, and found that the power of the 5 lines was still clearly present. She breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, the relationship has not changed. She is already accustomed to using the 5 system power. If the 5 system power becomes 1 because her spiritual roots become 1, she will still cry to death. Wushuan watched Yanziongloo eat the Yuanzu, and then went to the space stone milk to huddle with the clouds and start practicing. Jija Kong's spiritual beast Wuji is also nesting on the space stone breast. Everyone knows that this place is a treasured place for cultivation. Looking into the distance of the space again, Xianxia took a deep breath. Just change. She couldn't change anything. Sooner or later, she would know what was going on. Now she is focusing on improving her cultivation strength. No matter what she encounters, strength is her greatest asset. At this time, outside the space, the carriage attached to the sky has arrived at the city gate, and the carriage stopped. The space was under the carriage, and Xianxia could only see pairs of boots standing on both sides of the carriage. She heard voices, checking the people in the carriage. "Who are you looking for, young master? Why do you have to use a mysterious mirror to check the entrance and exit of Dusui City?" This question was asked by the carriage owner, who obviously had a good relationship with the person checking. "Just listen and don't spread the word. I saw a beauty at the 5 Elements Pearl auction. It is said that she is even more beautiful than the most beautiful woman in mainland China." Oh, no wonder they mobilized so many troops. Alas, if people dare to come to Dusui City, we will just show off. If I were willing, I would have posted it a long time ago. I haven't found it after searching for these days. Obviously, I am not a person who follows the trend. Who says it's not the case? That's why the young master is even more angry. As the two people spoke, the carriage started again. Xianxia raised her eyebrows. She had always known that she was good looking, but was she so exaggerated that she was even more beautiful than the most beautiful woman in the mainland? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 349. Chapter 349 Advancement Again. Xianxia removed the facial makeup pattern and restored her original appearance. She took out the mirror and saw a beautiful woman with big round almond eyes looking at her in the mirror. Although 16 years old is already the age for haircuts, her palm-sized face still has a little baby fat, making her face plump and shiny. The delicate and straight bridge of the nose, the pink lips as tender as a flower bud waiting to bloom, no matter how you look at it, these facial features are perfect and impeccable. After looking at herself in the mirror for a long time, Xianxia sighed. She is indeed a stunning beauty. Putting down the mirror and using Changyan Xuanhuan to change her face to a more ordinary one, Xianxia held her cheek and squinted her eyes, not knowing what she was thinking. She didn't come back to her senses until Zetian asked her where she wanted to go. Having too good looks is indeed a problem, but who dares to bully a powerful beauty? At this moment, Xianxia became more determined that she must become a strong man who can go to the 9 heavens. "Master, if you don't make a decision, we will go home with you." The voice covered the sky again. Xianxia saw that the carriage had entered an alley, and it was obviously not far from the family's mansion. The carriage slowed down obviously, creaking as it walked on the road paved with bluestones. Xianxia immediately said to Zetian, "Leave the carriage and go to the main street of Muzui City and find a tree to hide in." Xuanhuan doesn't know when her experience will be over. She has not yet become a god-level alchemist. She wants to concentrate on studying alchemy. Therefore, she and Xuanhuan will not leave the space for the time being. They have to find a place to stay. What better place to stay? It's safer on the main street. No matter how smart Lu Yu is, he will never think that he is right under his nose. Jishan immediately left the carriage after hearing this, then carefully climbed up the wall on one side, and headed towards the main street of Muzui City under the cover of trees. Along the way, Xianxia sensed the prosperity of Muzui City. There were already many people on the streets this early in the morning. There are very few trees on the main street, which makes it difficult to cover your body, so you can walk on the roofs of various shops to cover the sky. After walking for a while, I finally saw a very tall and strong tree growing right in the middle of the street intersection. The lush canopy of the tree opened like a giant umbrella, blocking out a large area of shade. Zetian rushed towards the tree, reduced to its smallest form, and slid past the ground at an extremely fast speed. No one passing by saw it at all. Even if someone noticed it, they could only see a streak of light passing by without knowing what it was. In the blink of an eye, Yan Xiangluo's vision changed to looking down from the tree. This location is well chosen. From the top of the tree at the intersection, you can see the directions of the 4 roads. It can be said that this is the center of the main street, with many people coming and going. It's early in the morning now, and there are a lot of people bustling about. Yan Xiangluo looked outside for a while, but did not let Zetian come in. Space is now on Zetian. If it comes in, space will fall on the tree. If she wants to leave, she must go out to leave with space. If she suddenly appeared in the tree and left, even in the middle of the night, someone would inevitably find her. After all, there is a curfew in Dusui City, and there are guards patrolling at night. If anyone is caught outside after the curfew, the punishment will be very severe. Some people will not have a chance to be caught, and their lives will be lost immediately. For safety, Jishin should stay outside. Fortunately, the spiritual energy of the higher continent is still very abundant, especially the Musui city. The first reason why it can become the central city of the Musui continent must be that it is the place with the strongest spiritual energy. Zetian gathered his aura, wrapped it around the treetops, and began to absorb spiritual energy for cultivation. It didn't realize that the spiritual energy it absorbed did not come from all directions, but the tree it was wrapped around. Yan Xiangluo didn't waste any time. She couldn't tell anything by just looking at it. After leaving a trace of her consciousness to pay attention to Jizhong, she continued to study the god-level elixir. 3 days passed in a flash. Yan Xiangluo did not expect that Jizhong could persist in it for such a long time. Every time she felt that Jizhong could not hold on anymore, she would make a roundabout way and get through it again. Just now Jizhong took the initiative to ask Yan Xiangluo to take him out. As soon as Yan Xiangluo thought, Jizhong appeared outside the palace. As soon as he came out, he sat cross-legged. Yan Xiangluo saw the promotion light falling on him and was confused. It turned out that he was about to be promoted. She looked at the palace with burning eyes. This is really a treasure place for experience, but it is much more convenient than going out to find a place for experience. Jizhong's promotion ended quickly. Although he was only promoted to the 1st level, it was only a short time ago. They had only been in the higher continent for 2 months, and they were already at the 5th level of the sect. After being promoted successfully, Jizhong did not ask to go into the copper tower to practice. He went to clean himself up first, and then looked outside and knew that Yu Xiangluo had entered the city. Where is this? Jizhong looked outside as if they were at a crossroads. There is a big tree at the intersection of the main street of Musui City. This tree grows very tall and lush, with a huge canopy. It looks like it must be tens of thousands of years old. Yuan Xiangluo then took her to the city. The situation was also explained to Jizhong. How many days have I been practicing in there? It was not surprising that Mu Suchin also used Xianjing to check Jizhong. 3 days. Jizhong's eyes lit up. This copper tower is indeed an excellent place for training. When Changfeng and the others come, can we let them go in and train too? Yan Xiangluo nodded and said, yes, but they cannot be allowed to enter the space. Jizhong smiled, of course we can't let them enter the space, and don't let them know the existence of the space. If possible, Jizhong would only want the 2 of them to know about Pangu space. But he knew that the medium of Pangu space was left to her by Luo's parents. She should tell her parents when she meets her parents in the future. He really thought wrong. Yan Xiangluo really hasn't made a decision on this matter. If she could, Jizhong wouldn't tell Jizhong. As for her parents, she hasn't decided yet. It's not that she is worried that her parents will do something bad to her, but that she is not in danger because she doesn't know. When will Changfeng and the others come? Yan Xianglou asked, thinking of the property deeds of the Qi family. They should be almost here now, but they are still in the snow source, Ji Zhozhong said with certainty. If we go to the inner continent, can we still contact him? Yuan Xianglou frowned. She has a feeling that in just a few days, she will be able to break through and become a god-level alchemist. They will only have a few days to go to the inner continent. The reason why there are fixed places for entry and exit on the border between the outer continent and the inner continent is because there is a natural barrier between them, so the sound transmission stone may not be able to communicate. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 350. Chapter 350. There is something wrong with the tree. Ji Zhozhong said, it doesn't matter, I have always left a mark for them, and they will follow the mark I left to find them all the way. Yan Xianglou was surprised. They had been together all this time. Why didn't she find out when Ji Zhozhong left a mark? When we leave Muzui City, I will leave them the property deed and a letter. They know what to do, Ji Zhozhong added. Yan Xianglou felt relieved when he saw that he had made all the arrangements, and no longer worried about when Ji Zhozhong left the mark. However, this incident made her once again realize her lack of experience in dealing with things outside. It will take a few more days for me to break through to the level of a god-level alchemist. Will you continue to practice in the palace these days, or do you have other plans? Yan Xianglou asked. Ji Zhozhong glanced outside and said, since we are going to exchange for the 5-element beads of the earth system, we must know this and the other so that we can win every battle. When it gets dark, let Jishan find a secluded place. I will go out and find an inn to stay at tomorrow. You give me space, so that I can take you wherever I go, and if anything happens, we can discuss it in time. These words made Ji Zhozhong say that Yan Xianglou had no reason to refuse, so he responded, okay. It is indeed more convenient to put the space on Ji Zhozhong, and Jishan can also come into the space to practice. She found that Yun Tuan and Wu Shuang were practicing almost without doing anything recently. She didn't know whether it was because of the subtle changes in space or the increase in the power of space stone milk. Especially the snack food cloud, not even delicious food can tempt it. She didn't want to delay Jishan's cultivation because of these trivial matters. Yan Xianglou continued to study alchemy, while Ji Zhozhong meditated on the side, stabilizing his cultivation, summing up the experience of promotion, and improving his own realm. Yan Xianglou has been staying in this tree for 3 days and knows that the curfew in Muzui City is at the end of Yushi. Therefore, when the time came, she communicated with Jishan and asked him to leave the tree and find a secluded place for Asukaja Kano to go out. Jishan, who had been immersed in practice for the past 3 days, heard his master's order and was about to quit practice when he suddenly realized that the spiritual energy he had absorbed came from this tree. Something is wrong. How come there is so much spiritual energy in this tree for it to absorb? After all, it has been cultivating for 3 days. Not only has the spiritual energy not decreased, it is still abundant. This is simply not the aura that can be contained in a tree. Since it is a divine plant, it is clear that this tree has not cultivated spiritual consciousness. Suddenly Zetian thought of something, there couldn't be a treasure under this tree. Zetian immediately used his spiritual consciousness to communicate with Yan Xianglou, Master, the spiritual energy I have absorbed in the past 3 days of practice is from this tree. There are treasures containing spiritual energy under this tree or in the tree. Master, let me come out and take a look at Yun Tuan. It can only look for plant treasures, and other treasure hunting requires its big brother Yun Tuan. Upon hearing this, Yan Xianglou looked at the tree outside. Apart from being extremely tall and lush, there was nothing special about this tree. How could it have the aura to support Jishan for 3 days of cultivation? It was indeed abnormal. She told Zhizhong, who had already seen the situation outside during the day. The tree was growing in all directions. If there was any movement, strong men from Muzui City would soon come to check. But if there really is a treasure that contains spiritual energy, it would be a pity to miss it. Let Yun Tuan go out and take a look, and then decide what to do, Zhizhong said. Yan Xiongluo immediately went to call Yun Tuan. Yun Tuan was interrupted in his practice, but he was not angry at all because he knew very well that his master would never interrupt his practice unless something happened. He jumped down from the stone milk in space and came to Yan Xiongluo. Master, what's the matter? Yan Xiongluo pointed to the outside of the space and said, Zhetian found something strange in this tree. He suspected that there was something strange inside. There are treasures containing spiritual energy under the tree, go and take a look. As soon as the cloud heard that there was a treasure, it immediately left the space and landed on the tree. Its black eyes suddenly lit up. Master, it does smell like a treasure, and the aura is very strong. It should be under the tree rather than inside the tree, Yun Tuan said with certainty. How deep is it under the tree? Yan Xiongluo asked. She was thinking about the possibility of letting the clouds dig out the treasure. Yun Tuan made an estimate and said, it's about 10 meters deep. So deep, Yan Xiongluo felt a little worried. If they dig out the 1 meter or 2 meter cloud and leave, they can hide themselves, but they don't have to worry about being discovered. But if it's 10 meters deep, it's unlikely that you can dig up the treasure without alerting anyone. Yan Xiongluo told Zhizhong about the situation, and Zhizhong also felt that it was not appropriate to dig for the treasure now. If they put Muzui City under martial law because of this treasure, it would be more of a loss than a gain. After all, their goal is the earth-based 5-element beads. Let Yun Tuan come back. Let's get the earth element 5-element beads first, and then dig for treasures before we leave. Zhizhong made a decision instantly. Yan Xiongluo also considered that there was too much noise digging for treasures now, so she asked Yun Tuan to come back, and then asked Zhetian to leave the tree and find a hidden place so that Zhizhong could go out tomorrow. Jishan is a little reluctant to part with it. The spiritual energy it has absorbed in the past 3 days is very pure and very fast. The effect is much better than what he used to practice outside. However, it will never disobey its master's orders. It immediately got down from the tree and ran quickly along the ground to the nearest alley. Then he found a tree at the end of the alley and climbed up, so that after it entered the space would fall on the tree. Entering the space to cover the sky, he ran directly towards the space stone milk without any delay, squeezed together with Yun Tuan, Wu Shuang, and Wu Ji, and started practicing. Yan Xiongluo looked at the 4 groups crowded together on the flat surface of the stone milk in a small space, and the corner of her mouth twitched. They actually love each other quite a bit. She doesn't think much of it if it's just her own spiritual pet. The key is that there is also Zhizhong's spiritual pet inside, which looks a little weird no matter how you look at it. One is a divine beast, one is a divine plant, one is a spiritual body, and the other is a flying spiritual beast. Each has its own characteristics. It is impossible for them to get along with each other. Not only did they meet, but they also got along with each other so naturally and harmoniously. It really made her happy. There is an unreal feeling. Zhizhong frowned. He knew very well how pretentious his own spiritual pet was. It allowed Wu Ji to squeeze together with Yun Tuan and the others without any care. This shows how beneficial and helpful the space stone milk is to their cultivation. This is good, they have to get used to getting along, Zhizhong said with a smile. He wanted Luoluo to be in love with him like this, but this girl didn't seem to be dependent on feelings. She had always been calmer in their relationship, so now he dared to hold Luoluo's little hand. Well, when can we go further? End of this chapter.